I'm Jack Berryman, ACSM historian, and we're here this morning talking with Sandy Hoffmann as part of our Distinguished Leaders series in sports medicine and exercise science. So thanks, Sandy, for
Thank you for inviting
visiting.
me. Yeah.
I just wanted to start out a little bit about your early life, really, where you grew up, and some of the people started out involved in sports like early on, and I don't know if that applies to you or not, but where you went to college, and I know you eventually ended up in medical school somewhere, so if you could sort of tell us a little bit about that, that would be great.
Sure. I grew up in one of the suburbs of Los Angeles. I'm actually what's known as a Valley girl.
Wow, all right.
People laugh, but it's true. I try not to admit it too much.
It's because we heard bad things about Valley girls.
Yeah. And my dad was a high school baseball coach growing up. And I'm told that I learned to throw a ball before I learned to walk. When I was born, my mom would bring me to the baseball games, and all the high school kids would play with me and play catch. And so I participated in sports at a very early age. I think my first sport that I remember playing in an official capacity was softball. And then grew to love volleyball. Started volleyball in 6th grade and played volleyball, till I was 45 years old.
Wow. Connie was just talking about her days of volleyball.
Oh, yeah, and Connie was definitely much more accomplished in volleyball
well, she was
than I was.
Olympic team. So.
Olympic team, so love the sport still. Part of my team position work has been women's volleyball for a long time also.
Okay.
And, was just one of those multi-sport players in grade school and high school, and, never particularly excelled at one and loved them all. Yeah,
but when you were there in high school, it's still in L.A. or suburb?
Still in the suburbs of L.A.
So these were varsity sports then?
Yes.
Because I still remember when Title IX came about in the early 70s, so sometimes it takes a while to get...
Well, and I was in high school in the mid-70s, and so Title IX had just come out, and when it was time to go to college, there were no scholarships.
Yeah.
There still weren't. No matter what they said, there might have been one at UCLA in women's softball and one in volleyball, and the rest, everybody else had to pay their way.
Yeah.
So, so I went to, my dad was a high school teacher, and there were 6 kids, and so I actually went to junior college for 2 years.
Yeah.
Before I went on to college. Did a lot of night school and played softball.
Was this fast pitch, I assume?
Fast pitch, yeah. Played softball, fast pitch softball, and our softball team actually came in runner-up in the state of California. Wow. My second year.
Well, you weren't a pitcher, were you?
No, but we had...
Because the pitchers are prime, that's...
Well, we actually had a woman named Pam Titchner as our pitcher, who went on to pitch at UCLA.
Wow.
And her ERA the year we came in runner-up was .0000000. Wow. She was an incredible pitcher.
Yeah.
And I still don't know why she was at junior college before she went on to UCLA, but she did. So we were very fortunate to have.
That's
nobody
good
could hit.
competition.
Yeah, nobody could hit off of her. We wouldn't even let her pitch practice. She was so good.
Right.
So, and then was at that point in my career, I wanted to be the right fielder for the LA Dodgers. And it took me a while to realize that was probably not going to happen. And then I said, you know what, I want to be the athletic trainer for the LA Dodgers. And interestingly enough, I know now there actually is a female athletic trainer for the LA Dodgers. Yeah. So I guess it would have been possible.
Yeah.
While I was in junior college, I actually started doing athletic training work towards my hours to be
through Ncaa?
Through Ncaa to be a certified athletic trainer. And decided along the way, and I still don't know why, that I wanted to go to UCLA and do kinesiology, because although I thought I wanted to be an athletic trainer, I came from a teaching background, and with my dad a teacher, and I really wanted to teach. So I ended up at UCLA in the kinesiology program there, and it was the inspiration for my career at ACSM and my career.
Wow.
Yeah, I trained with Reggie Edgerton.
Oh, is it that? I'm going to talk with him this afternoon.
Yes.
I was going to ask if you ran into him.
Oh,
or
yeah, he was.
Jim Bernard or.
Yep, Reggie was my major advisor for my. I went on to get a master's degree, my master's thesis. Jim Bernard was on my master's committee.
Fantastic.
Bob Greger in biomechanics. You know, I mean,
Good group,
at that time, ACSM was young, and the field of exercise physiology was very young.
Yeah.
And UCLA had just a dynamite faculty.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it was through those people that you came to ACSM, I assume.
It was through those people that got interested in ACSM. I actually never attended any of the meetings back then, but it was, I mean, the lab prepared for an entire year for next year's ACSM meeting.
Yeah.
You know, both the chapter meeting and the national meeting.
True. Yeah.
I was involved in doing some of the early work on spinal cord injured muscle fiber typing with Reggie, and actually, like I said, went on to get my master's degree, and had no thought of going to medical school. And Reggie may not remember this, but one day Reggie was sort of pacing the lab and going, we can't do any practical research because I can't get a physician to help us out or do research. He wanted to do muscle biopsies, and you needed a physician to do it.
Yeah.
And or clinical exercise testing on treadmills, and you needed a physician to supervise. And he couldn't find anybody in the medical school, and he just sort of looked at me and said, well, why don't you go to medical school and come back and do research?
That is amazing.
And I very naively said,
Maybe.
Okay, that sounds good, and really didn't prepare for didn't at all prepare for what it involved. I ended up going to medical school at Michigan State.
And what year would this?
That was 1984.
Okay, so you finished your master's.
Well, I had started my master's program, hadn't quite finished. I had started my master's in &83. And got accepted into medical school in '84, and still had a little bit left to do. Had to finish my thesis and had a couple of classes. But I ended up at Michigan State, which is where Reggie had done some training, and he hooked me up with some people he had trained with, and I got a GA-ship for a year in a lab, and so got some of medical school.
This is your first year of med school?
First year of med school.
Wow,
got some of it
neat.
supported.
Because you had that background that most students didn't at that point.
Right. And had taken anatomy and physiology, and sometimes thought I knew it all. Did a little more lab work than classroom work, but it was great. It was great fun. And at Michigan State, at the time was Doug McKay and Howe.
Oh, wow.
And so I just got basically shepherded from one expert member at ACSM.
What was Doug doing then?
Doug was
on the faculty,
on the faculty in family medicine.
Okay.
And we had to pick a mentor. And I went, wow, there's a sports medicine family practice doc, and I want him as my mentor. And
timing is everything.
Timing is everything. And yet I didn't know anything about Doug McKay and Howe before I went to Michigan State. It was more Reggie saying, I know some people there, and if you want to do some lab work, that would be great. And so got, like I said, shepherded just from one great mentor to a clinical mentor.
So was this then like your second year of med school, or were you farther along?
First and second year of med school, and Doug was just a great inspiration for me wanting to do clinical sports medicine. At that time, it was a very young field. There was the certificate of added qualification didn't come around until 1993, and this was 1984.
And you're still only a second year med school student too, so you're sort of ahead of the curve of your own colleagues, really.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're just trying to get through the coursework and.
Well, I I was trying to get through some of the coursework too. Yeah, yeah. And in the Michigan state system, you eventually have to, they were a land-grant institution, so Lansing had all of the first and second year coursework, but then you had to go to one of the communities to do actually your clinical work.
So your rotations or whatever,
your
third
clinical
and
rotation.
fourth year, you're,
Had to be out in the community, and I ended up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is not too far from Lansing, and decided instead of, was really interested in doing family medicine and sports medicine, and for some reason decided to do internal medicine. With an emphasis at that time, I thought I wanted to do cardiology, cardiac exercise physiology, and go on to be a cardiologist. And I hooked up with, at that time again, sports medicine was still young.
yes.
And there was a pediatrician at Kalamazoo, Dilip Patel, and Don Graydonis. And Don Graydonis was world famous for adolescent medicine and sports medicine.
I'll be doing.
And so he helped, even though I was an internist, those two helped shepherd me in my clinical sports medicine career, helped me, here's what you have to do. They were team physicians, brought me along to games in my third year, not so much.
High school or what level were
High
they
school
at?
and college.
Okay.
Yeah, they had two colleges in Kalamazoo, Western Michigan University and Kalamazoo College.
Yeah, okay.
And started, doing sideline work with them. Went on and did my residency in internal medicine in Kalamazoo.
So you stuck with the internal medicine
Stuck with the internal medicine. Still was pretty sure I wanted to do cardiology, and then just decided, you know what, I really like this sports medicine aspect. I don't have to go on and be a cardiologist. And my second year out, I became one of the team physicians at Western Michigan University, and it was.
What year was that, Sandy? When did you?
1993.
Okay.
1993, and we.
So did you have a faculty spot?
I had
there
a faculty.
then, or
I had a faculty position in the internal medicine residency program.
was that your first? I don't want to say job, but was that your sort of your once you'd finished your residency, your first permanent spot?
Actually, my first permanent spot was doing women's health. I did that for a year, outpatient women's health.
Where?
In Kalamazoo.
Oh, you stayed in.
Stayed in Kalamazoo.
Oh, I
yeah.
see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the residency program sort of lured me back to teach and do faculty.
Okay.
And that was when I was the faculty position. That's when I became one of the team physicians.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Kalamazoo. Oh, go ahead.
Well, what sport did you do? Any certain sports? Usually they divide it up somehow, but.
Yeah, I did women's volleyball, and I helped one of the orthopedic surgeons with men's hockey.
Okay.
And I had never been. I grew up in L.A. Hockey was not a real big sport.
Yeah, they
in
weren't
LA.
playing it on every street corner.
No, they weren't playing it on every street corner. And I had only been to 2 or 3 hockey games in my life, and I remember walking into the hockey arena going, what have I got myself into? I don't know anything about this sport. And after one game, I was hooked because it was, to me, basketball at warp speed.
Oh, yeah.
It was the most fascinating game I had ever watched. It was fast. It was fun. And at least in college level, they don't fight just to fight. There's actually rules about who you hit, who you don't hit, who you fight with, when you fight. Oh, they have very
worked out. Huh?
Oh, it's all worked out. It's all gentlemanly, and they won't tell you, but if you hit my goalie, yeah, you're gonna get beat on. But if you push me, I push you back. But they have unwritten game rules about who fights with who and who doesn't fight with who.
And that's high-level college hockey up there, too.
Yeah, that was CCHA, so Michigan State, Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Ferris State, who was in the,
high-powered.
Yeah, always that, and then the league that had Minnesota, and then the league that has the Boston schools were
Right.
always the three big
ones.
the three big leagues.
Yeah,
During my tenure, we hosted the Ncaa regional hockey
Oh, wow.
championships one year.
Wow.
And that was in 1997, and that was just a great honor and such a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, hosting 8 collegiate hockey teams, including Red Berenson and University of Michigan, who, believe it or not, wanted everything done his way, his time. Yeah.
Well, when did you, what was the first big thing you did with ACSM then?
When I was in medical school, second year, somebody at Michigan State, and I wish I could remember who, but through one of my connections in the Department of Sports Psychology and Movement, I was looking to, the meeting was in Indianapolis that year, and I was sort of asking around, is anybody going? Can I tag along? And I will never forget, although I can't remember the faculty person's name, they let me hop in the car with them, let me sleep on the floor of their hotel room. I mean, I was really a poor medical student back then, you know.
Yeah.
And
but they were in ACSM.
they were in ACSM. They were actively involved, and so they mentored and you know, again, just another. That's what's great about ACSM. It's a family, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, you need a ride down to Indianapolis? Hop in the car, you know.
Right.
We know you can't share gas money, but you're a student, you know, we just want to bring you along and learn something. And that was my first national meeting, and I don't think, I think I missed the next 2 or 3, but I think I've been going ever since.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah, for many years,
Yeah. So, did you get hooked up with the physicians group, the clinicians right away, or did you, I can see where you could be just as interested in the physiology and the cardiology and all that.
And actually, my first few meetings, I don't think I went to any of the clinicians. It was mostly physiology.
There weren't many then anyhow.
Yes, and this was back in the mid-'80s, probably 80.
Yeah, there were not much
485.
clinician opportunities, actually.
Yeah, and probably about our second or third year I was at Kalamazoo, we, there was myself, Dil Patel, who was in pediatrics, and a faculty person in family medicine who was also sports trained. He was an ATC, Bob Baker is his name, and he and Dillip are still there. And we decided that it was just when sports medicine fellowships were starting, and so Lansing encouraged us, because we were an affiliate of Michigan State.
I see.
And Lansing encouraged us to start a sports medicine fellowship program. And so we used all 3 disciplines to write our program.
Yeah.
And we're one of the few programs at the time that would have taken an internist, a pediatrician, or a family doc.
Either one. Or
all 3.
Yeah,
all 3
I
into
see.
the sports medicine fellowship.
That's pretty neat.
So when we started our fellowship, we became very interested in ACSM to develop our fellows, and worked really hard to help them do clinical case presentations and to bring them to the national meeting.
Oh, good.
And to really shepherd
great.
them along. One year, I remember one year, there were only about 100 clinical case presentations at the meeting, and we had 11 of the 100 from our institution.
yeah,
so we had 10%. And,
That's pretty good.
and I think that's where, you know, other leaders in the college sort of recognized the work we were doing. It was a team effort. In the meantime, one of my neighbors I'd done residency with, Mark Hutchinson, I don't know if you've run into Mark at all, orthopedic surgeon, went and did a sports medicine fellowship with Mary Lloyd Ireland.
Oh, okay.
And,
I know
and
her.
Mark,
She's in Kentucky.
she's in Kentucky, yeah. And Mark and I had been next door. Mark and his family and I had been next door neighbors and grew real close. And when Mark went down to do his fellowship, that would have been either 91 or 92. I met Mary Lloyd. And so that really was, you know, her again, you know, a clinical inspiration in terms of very involved in the college, very involved in leadership, very involved in mentoring young physicians and bringing them on board. And, you know, Mary Lloyd got me some speaking gigs at some conferences, and
That was a big move.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Before we run out of time, which is almost time already, I told you. What are you doing now with ACSM? You're chair of a committee now, I think.
Yes,
or
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Currently, I'm chair of the Medical Education Committee. Our committee has 15 members, and we're in charge of all of the CME, continuing medical education activities of the college for clinicians, for physicians. And that includes, at the annual meeting, our team physician courses, and staying accredited. And we're very proud to say we just were up for reaccreditation and got accreditation with exemplary.
Wow.
Top
that's
15.
not a given either. I mean, that's not easy, I know.
No, top 15% in the country.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and Sue Hilton, the education department, was, just...
They're dancing over it.
They're dancing over it, but they were very instrumental in getting it done in the Medical Education Committee. We continue to support, there's a team physician course, part 1 and 2, and we do one part every other year. And then the advanced team physician course, we co-sponsor with the American AMSSM and AOSSM. So it's both primary care sports medicine groups and the orthopedic group. And that's held every year in December. And my role in the years we're involved in that course as the primary presenters is to make sure we stay compliant with all the CME rules and regulations.
The thing I've seen just looking at the history of this group a long time was really the rise of the clinician member in the college, because it wasn't always a strong suit, really, and the clinician recognition now and it has just gotten so great that it's just fantastic to see that change.
It's very good to see. It's very good to see the opportunities for clinicians. We're trying really hard to mentor our young clinicians.
And get them into fellows, or to become fellows at the college. And
become fellows at the college. The program committee has started in the clinical case sessions. They're making sure that there's a gray hair, as we call them, and then 1 or 2 younger members, so that they can gain recognition and gain skills towards fellowship.
Great idea.
And we're trying real hard. We've just started that in the past year or 2, and really making sure that our younger members are eligible for fellowship. Because the college has been focused a lot on research, which is their roots. And there's not much clinical research and not very many clinical researchers. So to enhance the practice pathway and service to the college, we've really gone out of our way, and the program committee really has done a good job trying to make sure we're mentoring our young doctors.
Yeah, that's so important. I mean, that's just great.